how coated. I'm excited. I mean, Demon Slayer, great episode, but also how the hell are they gonna beat this guy, right? He's just there's no end to him. First, he's one crying old man, right? And of course, there's the 4 guys, and they're like Tengu based. They're obviously with my mask here, right? They're Tengu based. They have some kind of, fire, wind element thing going on, right? Typical for Tengus. So they got like the wind, lightning, and so on, etc. Right? And then of course he kind of like, I don't know, he can fuse up, right? Because he's the big baddie, so he fuses up. And now he's yet another form, the tiny super guy's real form. And I mean, I'm not the only guys, but I was thinking that, oh my god, how strong is the even higher ranked demon then, right? This is not the strongest demon, right? This feels like Tanjiro is fighting the final boss, right? One thing I love, except anime and manga and so on, is of course video games. Obviously talking about video games as well. And one thing I do love in that is JRPGs, right? It's like my favorite genre, more or less, right? You can see the trend there. Japanese role-playing games. Anyway, my point is that in JRPGs, you very often have these, like Sephiroth or whatever, Ultimisia and so on, Phantom bosses. Bigger point, you have these bosses, right? And if you play JRPGs, talking about Persona, whatever, they very, very often does the last boss have like 6, 7 different forms. It's a very typical thing in JRPGs, especially for fantasy, that the last boss has like, oh, I'm a demon, or I'm a fusion, or I'm a demon and a dragon, or if you turn into a demon, they always go at this, right? This is how this guy feels. He's like the last boss of the JRPG. He just keeps coming, man. It's just like, oh, there is no, you ever see my final form. I can also do this thing. You're like, okay, so how do we defeat you then, right? We see Tanjiro being like, Nani, yeah, and I'm just feeling the same thing too. I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna give up or something. Yeah, it feels absurd, honestly, how incredibly powerful this demon is. And again, what I think it mostly builds up, right, is how absurdly Musan and the other guys now, of course, to be fair, he isn't like, rank 500 or whatever. He's like upper demon. Yeah, he's that guy. It must be kind of Bleach, it's like Urkuria or something like that. If it's in Bleach, you can have a guy in the middle. He's at number 4. He's actually stronger than number 4, you know what I mean? But still, Bleach is very much like, well, actually, I'm not number 0, I'm number 10, or whatever, yeah. It's not like that, right? But still, this guy kind of comes in as, I guess, mid-tier or something like that. I wouldn't say, no, that's the wrong word, but I guess like mid-tier in the higher ranked demons, right, or whatever. Get some air comments now. But yeah, I hope you understand what I mean. He's not number 1, but he's not number 500 either. He's like somewhere, like in the top 10, but like in the middle of top 10, That's why am I overcomplicating this one? You get my point. He's not the highest, but yeah, he certainly seems almost impossible to defeat. No matter how many defenses defeat him, he keeps coming back. He always has an up upper sleeves. So the other guys has to be even more insane, because this guy feels like the last boss. This really feels like he's the last boss of the anime. It's just insane. I used to do this video earlier this week about Frieza, right? Goku versus Frieza, the ultimate legendary fight in Dragon Ball. I assume people have seen Dragon Ball, right? And Frieza, spoilers now then, Dragon Ball, he has the same thing too. Right? He's like, oh, I have another form. I got 3 forms. I got 4 forms. Frieza is iconic in many ways in Dragon Ball, but also, generally speaking, in shonen anime, how this guy had many forms, right? And eventually he turned into this like ultimate tiny form, right? Because Frieza becomes bigger and bigger and uglier. Then eventually he becomes this kind of slimmer, powerful, like condensed look, right? That he of course keeps then after that, which is more, his iconic look, right? But actually, if you think about it, what's kind of funny is that Frieza, for most of the storyline, doesn't have that look actually, how he ends up having, right? But if you look at all the merchandise on, right, of course that slimmer Frieza is, if we're gonna see it, right? But that actually is probably his least amount of screen time he has. This is the manga, because the manga is much faster than anime, right? So that slim look is only like the last, fight, right? The last 10 chapters, right? That being said, of course, that slim look has been reappearing in Super and so on. I know, but you get my point. This guy feels the same. He's like, oh, I got like several forms, and then eventually I become this like Uber form, right? That is way stronger. But of course, my point is, generally speaking, right, that Frieza is of course the last boss of Dragon Ball. Now he isn't the ultimate. Obviously, we have Cell, and then we have Ubisoft. I know I read Dragon Ball 100 times, But I hope people answer my point is that this feels like it's the last boss of the Super arc though, right? Because the Dragon Ball arcs are kind of like condensed into, you know, Super Alien, Super this thing. Yeah, it's not like this. If it's weird almost to imagine how this guy is underneath someone else, you know, in power. The other being said though, he of course is a very weird character. When he's crying, it's all sad, and you know his other form is very much a loser, right? His normal form is quite pathetic, to be fair. So maybe there's something about as well, I suppose, that the other guy seems way more competent than him, and then he brings out the A game. But I mean, I guess you could argue that that's his weakness. Because one thing I keep thinking about this guy, right, and it's of course not something that will never be answered now in the anime, is that what happened if you use own immediately, right? What happened, instead of you being, oh, he's just like crying old man, let's just cut him, you know? What happens if you go super hardcore breeding style, you immediately defeat him with your ultimate fire ability, you know what I mean? If Tanjiro was like, sun breeding, ultimate strike, you know, the first second, right? Basically the whole don't let him transform kind of thing, right? It's very common in anime. What would happen if you did that? Would he then just immediately die? Like that feels like his only real weakness. You have to kill him immediately before does anything else. Anyway, second video today about the katana. I mentioned this in the reaction part, because I had it earlier today as a sword, right? So this here is a Dao sword, right? Usually you see me with my Zoro green katana, right? Which is very typical katana. This here is a shiny sword for that matter, that's different, right? But I love this scene. This is my new favorite character. As I show you guys here, I showed you earlier this as well, right? This sword, you can actually make this kind of cutting effect, right? The sound effect of it, you hear. And the reason why I mentioned export that is because when you fight someone, right, you can do this thing, and then before you hit them, you can kind of make the sound effect. So even if they might block too early and so on, right? This is how it's designed. You also have this thing, right, to beat the wimple and so on. But yeah, this here is a Dao, baby. So about our katana guy. But yeah, I love this scene with the swordman, right? Obviously, love this scene, right? With the swordmaster, obviously, right? That's a really powerful scene. He keeps working on the sword, and then we get into this breeding scene. Yeah, like also was great, right? Yeah, we have this scene here where he keeps like, oh, what if I breathe into the water? I like this scene, yeah, because like then he can use his pretty technique, right? You know, so trying to destroy the water urn, he can give him oxygen, so he can then of course use his breathing, you know, techniques, right? So that was a cool last scene. Now I do want to guess though, as I said in the reaction part, I do want to guess that Mitsuri though will come right to not hear them, but to the actual other fighter, because you know, that's in the opening. Maybe the opening is really mean, I keep saying, but the opening has Mitsuri fighting the snake, right? So I think she's gonna come into the Tanjiro fight probably next episode and help out. Tanjiro will probably fight the fusion guy, and she's gonna fight the snakes, right? And then she will probably kill the tiny guy, while Tanjiro has to defeat, you know, the fusion form. That would be my guess. Anyway, please subscribe, play button, and have a great day.